Well, let me welcome everyone back to Confessions of an Ungodly Cult Leader. This program is just riddled with confessions, and it won't stop today or in the future. And by that, I'm saying this is not about let's point the fingers at a group and go, look how bad they were, look how ungodly, if they could have just been like us. We're saying we too. We accept that. We accept that blame. So today I wanted to talk about a really interesting, very interesting topic called Korban. And the reason I say it's so interesting is several reasons. One is it's a word that's only used one time in the Bible. And it's used in a pretty horrible way, in my opinion, in terms of what it was. And it especially digs deeper with me because it had to do with the Pharisees, and it had to do with when you're not doing the right loving thing because you're using scriptures to justify your unloving nature. Another reason I find it so fascinating is I just don't want to mention the names, but a major world sector leader, when I talked to him about sharing this, said, don't do that one. Why? It's not even an issue. You're wasting your time. Guarantee you there will not be people responding to your lesson on Korban saying, wow, that really touched my heart. That really hit home for us. I couldn't understand. He didn't even say don't do the one about the original sin. He didn't even say please don't include Chuck. That's really he didn't do that one. He didn't even do we thought we were the only ones saved. This is the one. Because he said it doesn't apply. It will fall flat. I don't believe it, but there's only one way to know. And I'm asking you, seriously, anyone watching this video, put your comments down there. Put your comments and tell me if you think this is legitimate or not to talk about it. So I'm going to start out by reading the scripture, Mark 7, 6 through 9. Love hearing those pages turn.
I'm just going to stop you for a second, James. I think this is the first time you've now gone. You are now preaching a lesson. Turn your Bibles to. I love it. We have moved into. We are now doing church. Congratulations.
We are now officially into church. Please turn to your scriptures. And I don't mind if you're using your iPad or phone, but I'll be honest with you. Jesus didn't use those things. And I like the old Bible coming to church. I don't want to see anybody reading off of those iPads. Okay, Mark 7, 6 through 9. The Pharisees had asked why the disciples did not wash their hands according to the ritualistic tradition of the elders. In answer to the Pharisees' questions, Jesus told them that they had rejected the commandment of God for the sake of their own traditions. And Jesus gave proof of their corruption of the law by citing their use of Korban. So Moses had instructed, we all know this, God's people, to honor their father and mother. That's in Exodus 20, verse 12. But the Pharisees negated that command by teaching they could give money to the temple in lieu of helping their parents in need. And whatever money might have been used to provide for aging parents could now be dedicated to the temple treasury instead by saying it is Korban. It would exempt a person from the responsibility to his parents. In other words, Jesus was telling the Pharisees that their misuse of Korban was an evil rationale to avoid doing what they should. By the way, there is a university in America called Korban University, a religious Christian school. And I'm sitting there and going, why would you name your university Korban? It's in Salem, Oregon. I mean, why would you pick one of the worst words in the New Testament? Why? And I started thinking of all of the biblical concepts and words in the Bible. You choose Korban. So I started thinking of little slogans that university could have. One is, how much is our tuition? It's 40,000 minus one, like the lashes. So with the Pharisee emphasis, and I like Pharisee University, and I like even the slogan, we put the fair in Pharisee. I've come up with some slogans for them, but here's my favorite. If I went to that school and it was time for me to pay my tuition, I would send them a notice and say, Dear Korban U, whatever money I have to pay you for my tuition, I have now donated that money to my church in your honor. So you're welcome. Anyway, enough of my humor on Korban. So I think of caring for our families, and I don't think we did a good job of it back then. I think we ripped people away from their families, is what I believe. And one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is 1 Timothy 5:8. And if anyone does not care for their relatives, and especially for their immediate family, they've denied the faith and they're worse than an unbeliever. That much I remember. And a few years back, I came up with a term 5-8er from 1 Timothy 5:8. And those are people that are going to care for their aging parents now, regardless of what that means about the local congregation. And I've got to tell you, from doing eavesdropping, I met so many of whom I've never met face to face. And I'll mention a couple. There was a Mary Ann that had moved to where her mother and father were living, aging and poor health. And one was in a hospice, I think the mother. And she would visit her every day. And she was so dedicated, so loving to her mother, that one day during our eavesdropping, I said, let's have a prayer for her today. And after we finished the prayer, Steve Johnson said, James, she just texted a message to us saying that she was actually in the car on the way to visit her mother in the hospice. And she heard us talking about her and then the prayer. And she started crying so much she had to pull the car over on the side of the road. So that was my happiest moment of eavesdropping of all. Because to think that a preacher in Portland and a non-member in LA could affect a woman that we didn't know that well in Florida going to visit her mother, to me, that was as beautiful as anything that happened. That's still in my mind. C-Mac, one of my buddies, C-Mac leaves New York and a family and moves to Ohio to take care of his aging dad, who also has health problems. He's been there for a while now, maybe a year. And it's one thing that man, he has integrity. But I want to be here for my dad. Dad lived alone. I see that happening, and I go, 1 Timothy 5:8. Like, are we finally figuring this out? Or is it that once you get our age, you don't listen to a leader to tell you don't need to go see your parents? Maybe we grew past that. You know, another, Robin Hatcher. I think that's how I've never met her. Robin Hatcher Wadsworth. She's like an angel living in beautiful Southern California and then moving to Florida to take care of an aging mother and father and doing such not just a wonderful job of loving them and serving them. This is no, I'm here because I'd have to be. And I just absolutely adore that about her and realize we've done well. I look back on what was it about this topic that leaders did not want me to mention. Why the hesitancy? When he said it's not even going to register with people. I started thinking, I've heard from loads of people. I regret being told that I couldn't go home and see my father when he was ill. There was a big reunion we were having with our family, and I was told, nope, you need to stay here. There was a funeral I wanted to attend, and I was talked out of it because it was a special weekend at church. And people, I've heard these. Those memories don't go away quickly. And if those parents die, or brothers and sisters are gone, you don't get that one back. And that's why I think it's a tricky one to talk about. But I started thinking about it. One of the reasons I think most leaders, this is not a big issue, because a lot of them did not neglect their families. They hired their families. Hey, I found a new way we can get a lot more time together. I'll make you an evangelist, you a women's counselor, you can be a teen minister, you can be finance. And if I could, I wish someone would bet me I can't come up with 10 examples right now of that happening. And just think about it for a second. It didn't even hit people right in politics when Trump said, okay, I got my cabinet. That's my family. That's my son. That's my son. That's my daughter. That's my daughter-in-law. That's my son-in-law. And the FBI came back and said they can't even pass the basic security clearance. And Trump said, but I'm the president, so let him in anyway. We had that going on. We had family members joining on staff that couldn't pass the basic security New Testament Christianity test. But that's okay because the leader said, no, I want them. So maybe you didn't miss as much time with your family, but a lot of us did. I remember, you mentioned Delphi Forums, and I used to be on there too. And weren't we two of the only ones that used our real names?
I think it was us and maybe Barry Mahfood.
Okay.
There might have
Well,
been somebody else, but it was mainly you, me, and Barry. Everyone else had.
and we had not even met. We had not
We've
even
never
met then.
met. I saw you up. I remember seeing your name. Oh, that's James Lloyd. Wow.
But I thought if you're going to be talking about these things, we got to be open. It says a lot about the group we're in that nobody wants to even mention their names when they talk about stuff. That says a lot. But on the Delphi Forum, I saw where a woman wrote one day. Oh, this floored me. She said, "Well, we had James Lloyd come to Huntsville one time for a weekend event, and the leader must have told him that I was not planning on being there for the weekend because he came up to me and said, I want to talk to you about, am I going to see you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? And I told him, no, there is a family gathering, a reunion of sorts that I really want to attend. My grandparents are aging, don't know how many other times we'll have. So I'm planning on going there. And I said, I think I need to challenge that. This is church. This is a meeting of the body. And it's a special weekend. You have a great speaker coming in for the weekend. No, I didn't say that. But you need to be here. Now, she's writing all this down. And she said, guess what? I didn't listen to him. I went to the reunion. And I'm glad I did. She had mentioned my name. I wrote her back openly, not privately. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I gave you that advice. And you made the right decision by being with your family. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. She responded within 12 hours. What a difference in her attitude, her countenance. She was like, Oh my God, James, I can't believe. Uh, Number one, now I'm embarrassed that I even said those things about you. But thank you for apologizing for that. It really means everything to me. By the way, are you going to be coming to Huntsville at all the next year? I sure would love to get together and have a lunch with you. Okay, let's just do a little time out here for a second. Remember the power of the apology? Do you see how her heart changed even towards me? Now, let me share some things about that apology that are very important. I didn't remember her. I did not remember that circumstance. Guess what I did not say? Oh, sister, I'm sorry, I have no recall. I have no recall of that conversation that you mentioned. I'm not saying I didn't. I'm just saying I have no recall of that situation. And if I did that, well, then I'm sorry. No. In my heart, I assumed what she was telling was the truth. Why is she going to make that up 25 years later? I assumed, and I want this to go out to every leader. The apologies I've received from leaders in the last 10 years have been horrible, horrible. They're not apologies, including the brother that told me to leave my wife and leave my two kids when they were 3 and 5. Remember, abandon your family, wait for her to commit adultery, then divorce her, come to Boston, we'll get you a new wife. I confronted that brother a few years ago. And when I confronted him, he responded, I don't recall that. I'm sorry, I just do not recall. Time out. I can see someone not remembering going to a visiting church and telling one person that you probably should be here for the weekend instead of going to the reunion. It's another whole thing, I'm telling you. If I'd ever told a man, you leave your wife and you leave your kids with the one purpose of she'll sleep with someone else eventually, and when she does, we got you. Hello, Pharisee. Are you playing by the rules now? Is it this? Pharisees would blush at this judgment. It went from I can't recall it to, well, I can say this. If I did give you that advice, it was the worst advice I ever gave anybody. 20 minutes later, yeah, I think maybe I did do that. You don't have to remember to give the apology. Assume what they're saying is the truth. That can't hurt. There was a man that I really liked in eavesdropping that I met, Tim Summerlin. My memory says he was a leader and even an elder in the Denver church. And he's a counselor for people in the church who have been abused. We had him on, Steve and I had him on the show, and Steve asked the question, what's the worst advice you were ever given? He said, oh boy, I know that one. That won't take me long. My grandmother died. So I made plans to attend the funeral. It was 2 hours away. And I went to her funeral. While at the funeral in the parking lot of the church, he got a call from his discipler. What are you doing there? I told you not to go. I told you not to attend. I know. But I thought this is a big decision and it was the right thing for me to come. Can you guess the next thing that disciple would say? To a man grieving that has just buried his grandmother. The body has gone into the ground now for 30 minutes. And a discipler tells the future elder, let the dead bury the dead. Korban. Korban. Why do you want to give respect to that person? You give respect to us. Let the dead bury the dead. By the way, Tim died a few months back. And I've thought about that thing that he shared. It took courage as a current leader in that church to share that story. But it was a reminder to me of so many that went through a similar experience. And that's why I wanted to talk about Korban. Okay, leaders in the ICOC, give me your response. Okay, here is our response. Matthew 12:47. Someone said, look, your brother and mothers are standing outside Jesus waiting for you. What did Jesus say, Matt?
Who are my brothers and sisters? No, here are my brother. Anyone who does the will of God is my brother, my mother, my sister, my brother.
That's it. That right there is used as a proof text. Think about that for a second. Hey, James, we just had a powerful meeting tonight and you spoke, and now you're meeting with the leaders, and you're in obviously a suite in the nicest hotel where everyone else is staying in the rooms that have 2 beds so we can get 4 brothers in there. But you're in the suite and we're having this little D group, and someone walks in and said, James, your mother and father are right outside. They drove all the way to Boston from North Carolina, 1,000 miles, just to see you. And for me to answer, mother and father, brothers and sisters, that's the people in this room. Tell them to leave. I'm meeting with my true family right now. They use that verse to treat people that way. And I think you could add on, if you come to me and you do not hate your mother and father, your brothers, yes, even your own life, hate yourself. If you can't do that, you cannot be my disciple. Listen, those are scriptures. I get it. Those are scriptures, just like 1 Timothy 5:8 is a scripture. But I think we held on to those other scriptures to justify how we treated family and friends, instead of the verses that say, this is how people really know if you're truly a Christian. This is it. It ain't telling your parents, yeah, y'all bury yourselves. I got a church meeting this weekend, and trust me, it's a lot more important than coming back to your home. That doesn't win anybody over. It causes a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. I want to say this, and we're getting close to the end here for Korban. If I could do it again, meaning if I could be an evangelist again, whether for ICOC or something else, I would do this very different. I would encourage people to spend more time with their families. I would encourage them whenever possible to choose that over a service that we have at church. And for the people that were able to go get time with their families, instead of being with us for that weekend, we would have special prayer times during our gathering for those disciples who had chosen the more noble path. We would have been praying for them, encouraging them, and thanking them for doing the right things. And when we sent home disciples to families that were not in our group, we wasted a lot of time preparing people how to handle that. Instead of teaching, when you go home, serve them love them, learn from them, and don't preach to them. Church of Christ has been known for my whole life. Oh, they're the church with no instruments. Oh, they're the church with no women preachers. Oh, they're the church that has a great knowledge of the scriptures. They're the church that's so evangelistic. What if we were known for the group that had an obsession for loving and caring for their own families, their relatives? What if it was said about our group, whenever someone joins that group, the whole family wins the lottery because they love the family so much more than they ever had before? Let me take a break because I know I'm kind of going hard and heavy here. Give me your thoughts on what I'm saying. I've got some closing remarks.
I mean, I've got so many thoughts, James. It's hard to I I'm trying to think. It's like, oh my. So just to say, okay, first of all, whoever said they won't relate to Korban,
Yes.
I'm going to put this gently. I'm going to put this gently. I think you might have hit the nail on the head.
Ooh.
Korban. I think it might sum up everything we got wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it might be, and I've got so many stories, some of which
And I didn't even see it as that.
yeah, for me, it's like I think of my mum's, I can't remember, it was her 60th birthday, I think. Out in there's pictures of it, but I wasn't there. I might have been on Chance of a Lifetime at the time. Uh, I can't remember. It was her 60th or her 65th. That it was a big party out in the south of France. Um, and I wasn't there. I'm pretty sure I would have been invited. I mean, uh, to be fair, another thought with my mum when I was about to go on, so it must have been after Chance, because just as I was about to go on Chance of a Lifetime, my mum got ill. She had cancer. Second time she'd had breast cancer. She had to have a mastectomy, and the advice I got was to stay in London with her. And my disciple at the time, Charlie, he also stayed. So we stayed until after the operation and stayed with her. So to be fair, that definitely happened. And I think that advice came from Doug Arthur at the time because he preached about it. He said, but the lesson he preached about was the fact that Charlie stayed with me. So it was like this brother who was about to go on Chance of a Lifetime. His mother got ill, so he stayed in London. And what did Charlie do? Charlie stayed with him. So the lesson of it was the loyalty of Charlie to me. But over the years, my brothers and sisters all had nieces. I missed a lot of the early years. I did see them. It's not like I didn't see them, but I missed a lot of the family holidays, the events. Christmas,
Mm.
I'd be there. Like you say, whenever Christmas came, there'd be like a build up in the church about not falling. The whole focus of Christmas was don't fall away. Don't fall away. Don't go out with your ex-boyfriend, girlfriend. Don't go drinking. Don't call your discipler every day. Stay in touch. Read your Bible. Don't go for more than 3 days. There was a thing about serving. Do the washing up. Show your family that you've changed. Do the washing up. Do the laundry. Be polite, but it was all very much the focus was because love for the family was convert them, convert them, convert them. That was love for family. That
Yeah.
was, if you love your family, you'll get them to heaven. And again, for me, it all goes back to salvation theology. I have like a truckload, probably. I have two stories in my head, which both like just to give you a general idea, because I don't know the person who told me, I'm not sure if I can share them, but they're very similar. They're generic. Somebody lost their brother. They're in one country. The leadership is like, don't go back to the funeral. The brother died in very intense circumstances. Don't go back. In the end, the members said, no, you need to go back. They kind of went against the leader and said, you need to
I
go back.
like that. I like that.
And the other example is a parent wanting money and the child giving it to special contribution and saying, sorry, I can't help you out. Literally,
That's the original Korban.
that's the original Korban. And as you said, the advice you got, about leaving your wife, I do believe that would have made the Pharisees blush. They would have gone, what? What? Like, what? And I just want to say just about the Pharisees, I feel like I always have to say this because I'm Jewish and the Pharisees have been loaded. I mean, it's a bit like Jesus said, the judgment of all the nations. I can't remember how it says it, like all the righteous judgment is going to come on you. And in a sense, it came true because it's like, oh, the Pharisees, the Pharisees, the Pharisees. When we as Christians have done much worse, much worse. The Pharisees weren't going around crusading and murdering people, and they didn't have the Spanish Inquisition or, or what we didn't. The
Torture.
Pharisees were pretty innocent. They just told them to wash their hands and you can't eat. They were just trying to keep the rules, and they maybe were a little bit power, but it was like all the wrath kind of landed on them. But like because it's written in the Bible. But actually, Judaism really developed. Like it didn't. The problem with the Pharisees is Judaism. Actually, the theology of Judaism, I think, became much more liberal and much more kind of sophisticated. I'm not saying this for all Judaism. I'm not an expert,
Right, right.
but with the Kabbalah and other stuff, there's a lot of subtlety and nuance out there that's actually quite often lacking in Christianity. Whereas Christianity seems sort of stuck in this legalistic. And those scriptures you quoted, I'm sorry to go on, James, but it's like
I like
there's
it.
so much there.
Yes.
Those scriptures are there. You cannot say they're not there. Let the dead bury their dead. Hate your mother and father. Who that they exist, but the other ones also exist. Honor your mother and father. Uh, the one you quote, my wife's favorite one is if you do not look after orphans and widows in their distress. Like that is religion that my father finds. God our
Pure
Father
and
finds
faultless.
faultless, to look after widows of their distress. The one that you quote about looking after your own family, and absolutely I missed out on lots of family stuff. And even when I left the church, there was a big, for a friend of mine, I organized this comedy gig, a charity comedy gig. And in the end, she was struggling to get the numbers for it. And I cancelled it. And she's a good friend. She's a really good friend of mine. I cancelled it because there was a family event going on at the same time. And in my heart, I was like, how many family events have I missed because of church? And as much as I really wanted to support my friend, we didn't have that many numbers. So I was like, it was like, it reminded me of being in the church. It was like, I can't do this thing and miss out on my family event. I can't
Yes.
do that. I've got to be with my family. And we've worked it out since, like, it's all fine. But like, that's how bad it was. Like that's how much it stuck in my head of like, so the idea that that wasn't part of it, I would say that was the ICOC. We would absolutely, it was like, we are your family now. We want your time. We want your money. And I understand there's biblical principles to that. And I'm not saying everything was badly motivated. I'm not saying there weren't exceptions. I'm not saying it was done always, it wasn't evil necessarily. I think sometimes it became evil or sometimes it became a
Ah,
lot of dishonesty. I wouldn't say evil, but dishonesty, because the leaders were feeling one thing and saying another, and they sometimes would use things for their own ends. There was impure motives at work, but absolutely, it was like we are your family, and you give everything to us because we are God's family, and you give everything to God. And in theory, the
yes.
theory of that is I can accept, but the
Yes.
fruit of it is just not love. It's not love. You can call it whatever you like, but it's not love. And so you have to question, how did we get here? Why did we get here? What's the problem? And I think if you dig deep enough, you will find salvation, you will find fear as opposed to love at the root of all these things.
Thank you, Matt. Great response. I'll close out by saying, even if you blew it like I did with your family, and my mom and dad are both dead now, there won't be any apologies coming their way from me. But my siblings are still alive. And my sister said to me 2 years after I left the church one night, she's only a year younger than I am. Jimmy, I'm always Jimmy with her. I never even became Jim or James. Jimmy, you're so much easier to love now that you're out of that church. What? No, seriously. You're so much more fun to be around. You're so much more loving with us. I don't think I liked you on that pedestal. She was just being totally honest. This is a great opportunity for us to realize we still have family, some of which we neglected unfairly. Well, congratulations to you. You still keep up with your siblings. And I know you don't like to talk about it a lot or expose things there that maybe they wouldn't, you not talk to them about. But all I know is when you were doing your deal up in Edinburgh, you had several family members stop in to hear you, and one that even joined Love Entity. So it tells me that it's never too late to change some of those things. And I want to say in closing, Steve Johnson, a very close friend of mine, I'm not going to say how he did when he was in New York. I'm saying today he gets it. And he is caring for his family. And he's caring for his relatives and especially his immediate family. When his dad got Alzheimer's and it was a decline that lasted a long time, Steve visited that man more than any other person. He was all the time. And not just a quick visit. Let's go for a walk. Let's go out. Let me take you out for a cheeseburger. He did that all the way until his dad died. He still cares that way today for his mother. He sees her 5 times a week. When I'm there, I see it. He's going over to see her and help her out with something. We're going to go get the medicine today. Then he's got Buzz and Anita, Lisa's relatives. He takes care of them. He's out cutting his grass. He's doing his lawn work. He's delivering groceries. He's dropping off a meal. Steve does that. That's part of his natural duty. I'm not going to use the word duty. It's an honor for him to do it. He never complains about it. Jackie, his sister. God, he loves his sister. Did everything he could to get her to move there from Atlanta so he could take care of her. He did the GoFundMe so he could take care of her with her mouth and her teeth and her jaws and all that. And he's forever with her. They get together. He takes care of her. There is no Korban with Steve Johnson today. I don't know what it was like back then, but my point is we can change it. And now we've learned how to apologize. How about some apologies to the siblings we still have, to the friends that we still have that perhaps we neglected for the better thing of going to church? It'll probably take some time for all of us to sort through this lesson, to process it. But thanks for letting me share it. Thanks for your comments as well,
And
Matthew.
I've got to say one more thing, and
Yeah.
this is a bit controversial, but I feel like
Okay.
it's important because I feel like part of me, I'm here to represent the ordinary members. So,
Yep.
and I say this as gently as I can and as vulnerably as I can. So this is what goes on in my heart. There is a hurt that when you say about Steve looking after his family, I cannot help. It's not cannot help. This is what happens in my heart. It goes, well, I wish he'd talked that when he was
Yep.
leading half the world and influencing Kip and you know uh so it's just there's a hurt there. So I'm not saying that to
I wish I had known this and believed this
me
and
too.
taught this.
Listen, me too. But
Yeah.
and so I'm glad Steve is doing it now. I guess I would say I would ask Steve, and this is part of the reason we're doing this as well. I would say to
Yeah.
all the leaders, there's a verse I love about a teacher of the law who has been instructed of the kingdom of God has old treasures as well as new treasures. And that scripture never really meant that much to me then, but it really means something now.
Mm.
So there's all these leaders out there that have their voices are still incredibly powerful because it's like we talked about with the Henry Creek letter, people still listen to the leaders. They're still the ones that have the voice and the ear of the people. And the more that we are able to be honest about the mistakes we make and to say, look, this is what I did then, and I deeply regret it, and I'm so sorry, and this is what I do now, but to raise our voices about what we've done, because we have to the madness is still going on. Even if I don't know how much in the ICOC, but 100% in the ICC.
Sure,
The
sure.
madness is full force. I'm 100% sure that people are being told, don't go and see your family, come to this service. Don't go. I'm sure it might be going on in the ICOC. It's definitely going on in the ICC. And even on a sort of lower base level, the basic teaching of the church is more important than your family, the church is more important than your family, is prevalent throughout the whole of Christianity. Those scriptures that we talked about, they get used in all churches. They let the dead bury their dead,
And all
family
cults.
and all cults. But even just ordinary, I mean, a lot of like Church of England or Catholic, it's so sort of it's become ritualistic. So but in any sort of seriously committed church where they're trying to follow the Bible, those scriptures are used all the time, and we
You
have to
bring
look.
this up because it's real easy for someone listening to go, why are they always knocking our church? And many times you bring up, it's not just our church.
Definitely not just, and I'm sure it's
Right.
not even just our religion. I just don't know enough about the other religions.
Yeah.
And it might not even
Listen,
be religion. There could be political parties, and this applies. This is
yeah.
the battle between love and legalism, between
Yes.
love and fear. That's the battle for me. And for me, the ICOC is a brilliant example because we took it to the ultimate extreme,
Yes.
thinking that legalism was love. So that's why, but it applies throughout it is kind of the world. You could argue this is the world. They put everything above love.
Thank you.